Hello, gang. Welcome to Sketching with Izzy. Hopefully, you can hear me right now. Mic check. Anyone? Let me know. So, we're gonna start a new painting today. I'm just gonna paint it in this same file. That's my thinking. The Evil Brain. Welcome. Natural Crunch. Awesome. Adelheid. Thug. Welcome, all y'all. How are you doing today? Is your weekend started off right? I have no idea what's in this file. Oh, this is the other old stuff. Well, let's see what we can mush together today. Any ideas for themes? I was kind of thinking of doing something a little bit horror, he said, in front of a dismembered skeleton robot monster. You missed a month, Adelheid. You're killing me. Where you been? All right. Let's mush all this down. Make a copy if it'll let me. Oh, it won't because it's a background. There we go. Ermagerd, welcome. A dug up archaeological find. I like that. That's very specific, but also like has lots of cool options to it. That's something worth playing around with. Oh, don't worry, Adelheid. I'm just teasing. What did I drink last night? A bottle of wine and vodka and ginger ale. What alcohol-based regret? Dating apps. They're a horror show. Okay, archaeological find. That's interesting. We're definitely going to need to swap out our colors here. Yeah, it's hell. You know what's crazy is I really kind of thought that with COVID and all the crazy shit going on that like the dating pool online would be much more varied and filled with a lot of interesting, more normal people. No. Sadly, no. It's all a shit show. But that's all right. Maybe something more in this range. Let's play. You took a break about 6 months before COVID hit. Also, you're going through cancer treatment all last year, so dating. Yeah, I can imagine. You had other much more important priorities. Oh, Natural Crunch. I'm not on the boat currently, but it was very hard. Believe me, it was a nightmare. No, I'm in Oregon currently. The boat is still in Mexico. I'm still paying to keep it docked, but I don't have any plans to get right back. On account of COVID and everything. Let's see if I can grab one of these and throw it in there for some texture. I say you. Interesting. Define normal. Just not what you would expect from online dating. I mean, when you're scoping around online, you expect lots of kooky, interesting people, which is fine. I like kooky, interesting people. But I was thinking, I would start seeing more folks that you would possibly meet just wandering around. But no, it just turned either that or just normal, which might be your point, is a total uh, illusion, which is cool. I get it. It is very frustrating now. No, I don't want to accent that eye. I'm just drawn to eyes, you know. It's my way. All right. Let's see what we can find in here. This is my markup pen for when I'm doing art direction in the office. So everything that I mark up and draw is just this red line and this super sharp brush. I use it so that I don't get all fixated on trying to paint, because I don't really have time to do that. I don't like mermaids. I'm pro mermaids, especially living on the boat. Yeah, boat people are pretty kooky as well. But weirdly, there are not a lot of single female boaters. It's just a total sausage party. And yeah, it's tough. I remember thinking that when I was getting onto the boat, I was like, oh, you know, actually this is kind of a cool adventure lifestyle. There's got to be women that would dig that. No. Especially not like in my current age range. You know, it's careers or settling down or both or whatever, but going on kooky, ridiculous adventures, either I got to go way younger or much older. Them's the breaks. Learned it on the spot. Do most artists use warm tones more than cool tones? You think you heard someone say that recently? No. Warm tones and cool tones are completely arbitrary. It's a relationship system. So you can't have warm tones without cool tones. So it's not an issue of using one more or one less. It's more about what it is you want to say and how you choose to play those contrasts against each other. Because a color, any single color, can be warm or cool depending on the colors that are next to it. So it's an interesting game to play. I cover it a lot in my lessons. I think it's one of those, if you struggle with color theory, you should definitely at least learn warm and cool play for pushing your tones back and forth. It's very valuable. Do I still work at the Romanian studio? No, I left the game dev job about 2 months ago, I want to say. I'm now art directing an animated series. So, I mean, it was the game job was a dream job, but then this dream job was even a little bit more tempting, a lot more tempting. So I jumped on this, and that's what I'm doing currently. So it's been really interesting. Some of you have already heard this already, but like I've been in the animation industry for now 2 months. So they brought me in to art direct, and I have a lot of experience in games. I have a lot of experience in doing concept art for film and even for animation. But art directing within the sort of time frame and requirements for animation it's a different beast. So it's been really exciting because I'm learning a shit ton. I love it. I love learning new stuff. It's like my favorite thing in the world. Has COVID made it harder or easier to get work with everything going online? I think it's been easier if you do this kind of work. But also, it's hard. I'm not the person to ask, because for the last 5-6 years, I've been working from a boat in Mexico. So internet, network, all of that really kind of crunched what was available to me. So I did a lot more illustration and key art, keyframes for film, and that's about it. I didn't get to do very much concept art, which was rough because I really like concept art. But it paid the bills, put diesel in the boat, so 0 complaints. Gray Voices, welcome. You like that catamarans of gay guys that collapsed on New Year's Eve in Mexico? What? I didn't hear about that. Although I've had many party boats pull up and anchor nearby. They're always so fun. Every color looks cool next to your butt because it's so. We missed you, Ermagerd. I'm glad you're here. Can I say what the show is? I can't. It's all under NDA. Nothing's been announced. But once announcements start happening, we'll be talking about it here for sure. Oh, right. I was doing a thing discovered. I like that because it can be a creature. It can be, an archaeological site. It could be anything. Just start carving up shapes. I'm going to turn down the opacity just a touch because I want a little bit of that texture to bleed through. I'm thinking like kind of a downward press, like maybe this is something in the ground. I don't know yet what it is. We'll figure it out together. What's the best color and why is it blue? The best color, Thug, and I know that it infuriates you, is purple. Period. Sorry, buddy. It is not a wishy-washy color. I do not accept this framework. What's all your favorite colors? And do you like to paint in them? That's a whole other thing. You can like a color to wear, but maybe it's a difficult one for you to paint with. We know Thugs now. Let's throw some more goofiness into this mix. Let's bring up our values a little bit. Purple is not the color of indecision. It is only the color of indecision to English braggarts that think they know everything about color. I insist. I always want purple as the first choice. Purple is awesome. It's vibrant, rich. It has all sorts of cool cultural connotations. I will hear none of this blasphemy. I've never even heard that indecision thing outside of you. So I'm pretty sure that's just like your opinion, man. I like this purple and green complement set we've got here. It's pretty fun. If you're working in complement colors with your paintings, one thing to watch out for is making both of the colors equally important. It's something that I've seen sometimes with students that are first kind of learning to experiment with color theory, and they're learning about palettes. And from my experience, I've found that the best way to approach a complement is to choose one that's going to be your dominant saturation, and that will actually occupy less surface area on your canvas. So you'll have like a really rich, red, for instance, and then it would be very small in terms of how much it takes up on the canvas. And then the green could be much more desaturated, because a strong green will make that red look even redder. So a very desaturated green. So then you can really start to play with the subtlety of your colors. And it's fun to experiment. You should totally do experimentations with double rich complements. But for harmony, I think it's a pretty good idea to pick one to knock down a little bit. There's a graphic designer called Aaron Draplin. You borrowed it off of? Maybe it is a designer thing. I don't know. It's certainly not an Izzy thing. So there. Wasn't purple some Romans, Byzantine, and Persians monarchs? Yeah, oh yeah, totally. It is definitely associated with royalty and important. I think a lot of it has to do with it's a difficult color to find. It's a difficult pigment to make traditionally. Donkers, it has been a while. I've just been crazy busy learning on the new job. I've had jobs before in sort of art direction and pseudo art direction that involved managing groups of people, but I've never been involved in managing this many. I have a big crew, and so it's a lot of feedback and preparing tasks, and there's a lot of managerial stuff that is so not romantic about doing art direction in a big production. But I'm having fun learning it and knowing that these are going to be really valuable skills as my career progresses. And I'm not sure what's next for my career, so it's cool to kind of just totally take the trajectory in a different direction, as I've been doing games almost my entire career and building up towards art direction in that. This is so different, and it's exciting to spend time learning new stuff. I have this weird habit that once I've kind of figured out figured out how to game a system and I know the system really well, I get bored. And that had even started happening in games where like I knew exactly what I needed to do. There was no surprise. It was just kind of So it's good. I'm learning a shit ton. And I kind of have a mentorship relationship with the one of the primary producers, which is really cool. So he's kind of showing me the ropes with art direction, leadership, managing problems, grievances, everything. I mean, everything. It's been so cool. And then I have a producer who's a sort of a partner. She does she comes from art direction and art. She used to work in toys, and she's super cool. And I'm learning a ton from her too. They've been so generous with their knowledge and experience and wisdom. It's like I couldn't dream for a better situation. It's a high challenge, high reward, and it's just filled with generous, awesome people. I think let's grab all of this. I think that's kind of how I will choose to think about jobs going into the future, is not so much what will it pay, not so much what will the credits be that I get, but what can I learn and who can I learn it from? And I think that's going to be a good sort of framework for how I choose my future jobs. Yeah, those colors are rare for sure. Thug, you get bored if you're not learning new stuff on a regular basis too. Yeah, I feel you. Working on a movie? No, it's an animated series. And in some ways, from what I'm learning, because I've done film stuff before, working for a series, specifically animation, is way crazier than a movie. You have years to do stuff for a movie. I mean, just previs alone can take forever. With this, It's kind of like a waterfall system. So we're designing things, then building things, and then sending them out to studios. And that has to be done again and again and again and again per episode. So we're constantly like in high octane production, and it is intense, but fun. I don't have much free time for streams right now. Yeah, Adelheid, that's why my streams have been pretty limited lately. They're down to like just one show a week, and sometimes I'm too tired even to get on. It just happens that way. I'm hoping that once I kind of have a lock on how production and everything works a little bit better, I can maybe do some evening streams. But for now, it's just one a week. But that's okay. It means that, we get to have nice, potent conversations about things. You don't get bored of me. I have no idea what this is going to be. Just some kind of corpse or something. It might be obvious, considering the prompt that Thug gave me, but I don't feel like really digging into my brain for design right now. I just want to paint. For me, there's something kind of meditative about playing with color and light and just kind of making an image, not trying to solve a specific problem. So that's why a lot of these tend to be a little bit more simple. Also, the whole, 6-session paintings is kind of, I don't know. It's too expansive. I want to paint things that, when people are joining, they're like, oh, they get to see progress, instead of it being a really slow rendering, where I'm only rendering up 1 inch of a canvas or something. Okay, so what I want to do here, now that I'm thinking about this and I kind of have a concept, I want to throw in a light that's going to be some kind of framing device. That's gonna not a framing device, but a focal point device that also simultaneously implies that this is underground. So it's going to be some kind of spot, and I'm going to do something I don't normally do. I'm going to paint with an adjustment layer instead. Yeah, I'm thinking it's maybe like a mummy or something. I don't know. I'll figure it out. Right now, it's just about placing primitive shapes and figuring out the lighting. Once I get that stuff figured out, the detail and the design can come in after, which is totally fine. If I'm not trying to solve a specific problem, it's a very satisfactory way of doing that. But would it be exposure? Does exposure have color? I don't think it does. No. Again, we're experimenting. This is not something I do all that often. Let's try levels first, and then I'll add using that same mask, I'll add a color switch to it. So we want it kind of a little bit blown out, not too much. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to turn off, or rather invert the mask. Vibrance, yeah, that might work. I'm thinking levels for like fine control of the values, and then probably a hue saturation, but I might try vibrance. It's not one I play with that much. Okay, so let's find some light. First we need to set it to a brush, and the brush needs to be, when you're painting on a mask, you have to paint only in black and white because the mask operates as full opacity and full transparency. Full transparency is black, full opacity is white, and grays in between. There are no colors for this. So you need to know ahead of time what it is you're trying to do, otherwise you won't be able to get the effects you're after. So we're switching it to a white color, and when I paint, you can see we're basically painting the light on the figure. but it's non-invasive. It's not changing any of the stuff underneath. Oh, this is. I did not use true black. Hold on, let me fix that. I'm messing everything up. D, that's the one. Let's go X. There we go. Okay, now it's true black. I'm going to switch again and do it right this time. Okay. Thinking like maybe it's in a tomb or something. Might be interesting to imply in the shadow, like a cast shadow, another figure. See, hey, storytelling. We love it. That's what we do in here. I'm using the erase. The erase is taking the mask back to black, so I'm just working in black and white effectively. It's a great technique. I just don't use it very much. I don't want to overdo this either. So what I'm experimenting with now is introducing kind of that silhouette of a head or something, but I don't know if it's going to work. There might just be too much sort of visual information here to pull that off, and I don't want to go too bright with everything. This is meant to feel really dark. Maybe it could be coming from a specific direction. Maybe it's like this. That might work. If the thing casting the shadow is very far away from what's being cast onto, it needs to have a soft edge. No, that's not it either. I like that little triangle I've created there anyway. Maybe we'll skip the head. We'll see. And then what's great about this, now I can go in, I'll do a multiply layer, and then I can really kind of push and pull the local values, so I can really control the value key here. The implication being that I want to have bounced light. So there's this strong light source that's overexposing coming in, and then it's bouncing light around and filling this room with light, but it's not bright enough to actually compete with the original light source. So there's two ways to do that. You can add more light, which we don't want because this is meant to be dark, or you can do what I'm doing, which is add more dark so that the lights that you have in that area feel brighter. It's, again, just a relationship game. Yeah, I'm not sure how I'm getting black out of that. Interesting. Will the corpse be lying in grass? I'm not thinking so. I'm thinking it's some kind of tomb. That's just been opened from the top or something. I don't know. I'm figuring it out as I go. It may end up just being, a Sleeping Beauty situation. Who knows? I'm not holding myself to any specific idea just yet. I'm letting it kind of, grow holistically. What version of Photoshop was everyone's first version? Yours was 3. I think mine was around there. It was in, I want to say like 94, 95 that I first started using Photoshop. It's a long time ago. Old man. When was 3? What year? I do remember that the toolbar was like, there were 5 tools over here. Oh shit, I just realized that you guys can't even see all of my screen, can you? You can't see my color picks or layers. You know what? Actually, looking at it, it doesn't really matter that much. That's fine. You can see me, that's what matters. Yeah, I always forget with the Twitch. I'm painting on a super wide screen, and I can only broadcast up to a certain size. So some of the screen gets cut off. 3 would have been 95 or 96. Then yeah, 3 was what I was working on. I remember it did have layers. I didn't know if it was a hot new thing though, because I didn't know shit about Photoshop. Look at me now, kid. Okay, so we've got kind of a lighting plan. I've got a rough idea of where I'm going with this. Now might be a time to pause and start doing some designing and laying out what I think should happen here for the narrative. So let's grab a line tool. Looking at this, I think it might be interesting if the head was more facing towards us. Damesh, hey, welcome. Thanks for the sub update. That's great. Appreciate that. Welcome. We're painting some kind of archaeological find. Got a little head there. I want to see, I'm going to be adding like a nice sharp shadow here for deep, deep clavicles. You know, this decayed and desiccated meat. I don't know about these pauldrons. Maybe some kind of like a cartouche here. Kind of want to see just like bare shoulders, maybe bound up so that they're tighter. Those clavicles popping. Hey, no worries, Demace. Thanks for joining. when you're doing more skeletal style anatomy, it's important to keep your lengths correct for proportion, because you're going to get like these really long looking fingers, these really long looking limbs that almost seem incorrect, but the anatomy, the underlying anatomy is quite long. These are all long bones, right? So you don't want to lose that proportion relationship when you make the flesh desiccated. And the best place, anytime you're trying to manage your proportions, the best place to go is to compare to the head. A little bit long on that bad boy. How's that looking? Might be narrow, a little too narrow on the shoulders, but my goal was to kind of imply that the figure is bound tight. Maybe the rib cage was even broken during mummification. I'm going to go in and design a better pattern, because it's, you know, how mummies tend to be portrayed, you know, in movies and things like that, with this sort of like haphazard wrap. That is not how it was done. I mean, it was almost, it was, as I understand it, it was as methodical and careful as origami. Like, the patterns would be very thoughtful and would go over the contours like a good tattoo. Sanabil, welcome. How are things in your neck of the woods? I think I need to do shoulder extension. That's a bit better. Okay. So we've got kind of a narrative and a pose. I don't know what I'm going to do with this part. I know I don't want to, well, maybe. Uh-oh. Photoshop hung there for a second, and every time it does, when I'm on a stream especially, I just get PTSD for that, when it blue screened when I was on a show months ago now. The only mummies you saw in museums were naked and almost black. Those may have been, what do they call that? Like peat mummies, where they mummify in a peat bog, and something about how the acids work in a peat bog basically tan the skin and make it really, really dark. There's some really amazing mummies out there that come from up in Scotland, Ireland. Things are good, just dealing with the virus, so shit's a bit weird. I feel you. So I'm thinking, like, I know they have these, what are they called? Canoptic jars, is that correct? Thug, you probably know. Coptic? I can't remember. But part of the process is they remove all the organs and place them in these little jars, these like decorative jars. And they are also entombed with the corpse of the exalted, whoever they may be. And I like adding these cylinders in here because they're going to be good little opportunities for capturing little bits of light and turning it really sharply as the cast shadow finds an edge. That's right, Adelheid. I think it's canoptic jars. We're basically making up our perspective here, but we know roughly the camera lens that we're working within. We know that if we're looking top down, we need to see almost the full circle of the cylinder. Now, because I don't have reference up right now, and this is actually cultural stuff, I am going to do a little bit of a left turn here and make this maybe an alien version of it so that it minimizes on pissing anybody off. Actually, it's kind of making me think of Stargate, the movie. You ever see that? I love that movie. I've only watched it maybe like 3 or 4 times in my life. I haven't even seen it recently. I think the last time I saw it was about 10 years ago, something like that. But it just stuck. It's such a great movie, such a cool concept. If you have not seen it, I recommend it. I don't know, this looks too much like a hospital thing there. That's a nope. I did watch some of SG-1 back in the day. I think when I first got on Netflix, maybe. But I remember I liked that. What was the one with, who's that English actor? Oh no, sorry, he's Scottish. He was Begsby from Trainspotting. That's another Stargate show. I think they're out in space. The whole show is out in space in a big ship. I can't remember the name of it. But I watched a bit of that one, and it seemed pretty interesting. But then I got super into Once Upon a Time, I think it was. Shut up, I like princess shows. Don't judge me, assholes. Stargate Universe and Robert Carlyle. Yeah, thank you. He's amazing. And also in Once Upon a Time. He's Rumpelstiltskin. You know, I think that's probably how I ended up jumping to Once Upon a Time, was because of him. I need to get this to feel more dead. I think there might be too much meat on these bones. Okay, let's set this to multiply and start actually getting it into the lighting. I will need to do 2 of these. Set this one to normal. We're gonna grab, come on now, why are you not listening here? Cut and paste, throw this one away. Okay. All right, let's see what we can do here. Let's start carving out some shapes and figuring out some lights and committing. All 10 SG-1 seasons are good? That's a good question, actually. Are they? I don't know. There aren't a lot of shows that can go that long and still hold it together. lighter than I thought it was. That's good. Okay, so right now what I'm trying to do is map in some really strong accent values. Just pull all of my really darkest darks. And what this will do is help direct the light a little bit more, help design the figure. Can't be bashful at this point, you know? It's more consistent on its goodness of episodes than Star Trek. Interesting. So what is the core sort of purpose of the SG crew? We know what Star Trek and the various enterprises, what their jobs were. What is the purpose of Stargate? Are they like the Star Police, or what's their deal? I know that it was just an experiment in the movie. Okay, so I kind of have a rough direction. I'm going to try to emphasize that for now with just straight, real dark darks. There's always room to do blending between values, but I find it's sometimes better to try and tackle sharper shapes, say that 10 times fast, initially, and then smooth from there. It can be harder to find the to go the opposite direction. Trying to back up that direction. You commit to a series when you start watching, and sometimes you have to suffer through the last 2 to 3, 4 seasons. Yeah, I'm kind of the same way myself with shows. I call it the Lost burnout. I was so deep into Lost, and it let me down so hard that I don't trust any show anymore ever again. And if they don't show me a hook with setup and payoff in the first 3 episodes, I am very willing to just walk away now. I am brutal with my dropping of shows. So I don't actually see a lot of the TV that most folks do, because I'm now so strict about setup and payoff, which is fine. It works for me. It saves me a lot of time, I'll tell you that. SG-1 starts after the movie, and the series is about understanding the network of Stargates and how the Goa'uld, or however you spell it, run the galaxy. Okay. The Goa'uld are the sort of quasi-Egyptian gods from the movie, I'm assuming. You only catch glimpses of SG-1 when it ran. You watched all the Stargate? Huh. Yeah, I mean, Stargate's a commitment. We are talking about just a shit ton of episodes to catch up on. I mean, that's weeks and weeks, possibly months of stuff to watch. I just watched all of the Marvel movies in chronological order, even though I'm kind of marveled out. But I had watched WandaVision and wanted to kind of remind myself what led up to all of this. It was pretty good to see it all together. I skipped a few, which I had seen too recently. Like I didn't watch Guardians of Galaxy 2. And Disney Plus doesn't have the Spider-Man movies. The Sony Spider-Man crossover with Tom Holland. Can't believe it. And they have no plans to remedy that, which is a shame. Although it's kind of a miracle that those movies got made at all. So I ain't going to bitch too much about it. Yeah, Lost ruined me. Just ruined. What a disappointment that ended up being. Even as much as everybody had issue with Game of Thrones, it didn't throw me even nearly as much as Lost. I just feel like the last season they had to rush for all the obvious reasons on Game of Thrones, but I still liked it more than didn't dislike it. Lost is a masterclass on payoff, setup and payoff, and why it's vitally important to deliver those things. You cannot mystery box that shit away. If you're using mystery box to draw people in, which is it's a cool idea, but if you're using that to draw people in but you don't deliver on the promises you make, you don't answer the questions you ask, you are setting yourself up for total defeat. Like, you're gonna piss people off so much. I was infuriated with the end of that show. I got so hooked. It was my first like real binging experience too. I think I've told this story before on here, but I got the Lost first season on DVD as a Christmas present or something, and I ended up watching it all straight. Like I stayed up all night and watched it all the way through to the next work day. I was so hooked. And then I didn't join any watch parties or anything. I still have yet to try that out, but yeah, I was deep in it. Broke my heart. Can't trust nobody ever again. Okay, now I'm painting a little bit softer here. I'm not going full opacity, you can see. And what I'm doing is kind of mid-tones, trying to manage light direction again. It's going to be really important here on the face. The key is to not go too dark and to remember that I'm going to have bounced light and reflected light, so I don't need to paint all the way to the edge like I did down here. Even these ones, I can kind of knock that back and just use it as a core shadow instead. And by being careful about where I apply that dark, I'm automatically creating a reflected light with minimal effort. And we all know my credo. Lazy way is the best. Lost was an amazing show at the beginning. It really was. It had such a great hook. Lost and Prison Break were the free dealer dose. I want to get a little bit of cast shadow and contact shadow with my cartouche here. And I know that I'm going to want a nice, strong accent value in this area to draw the eye. So we have the makings of a painting already now. I think this is a really solid start. We're an hour in. I think the timing just about worked out perfect on that. You'll notice if you've watched the show before that I monitor time specifically during the sketch phase to make sure that I'm not over rendering before I get in most of the pertinent detail and information that's going to be communicated in the painting. It's just for that reason. After that, I don't really monitor time that much. Definitely need some bounce light up on these Coptic jars. Is it N Coptic? It's just killing me. You're French and Lost was the first show you watched in English? That's great. Welcome, Draval. Let's switch up brushes a bit. Yeah. This is too bright here. I want this to be a shadow that cuts into the light. Yeah, that's the way to do it. So then we can bring our light up and around that Coptic jar. Just gonna keep saying it wrong, but whatever. My goal with the sketches, with communicating everything, is so that it would read at a distance like this. And I feel like we're pretty close. Like there's a lot of background stuff that isn't making sense yet, but there's a clear light structure. There's clear form. I think it's good enough for a start. Sometimes I don't know how it is for y'all, but sometimes this is my favorite part, and I just don't even want to finish a painting. I'm weird that way. Let us actually, I'm going to duplicate that group, merge it, and I will do a softening pass where I want to ease up on brush strokes a little bit. What this does is it gets rid of really high contrast moments that are just incidental. They were just an accident. I wasn't trying to make them, so that they don't become accent values in and of themselves. Sure, it's cheating. Sargent would beat my ass right now, but you know what? We live in the future. We don't put literal hot coals in our beds anymore. I don't know what I'm going to do with that light. I just want it to kind of bloom out. And I know that I'm going to want to add some rich color there. Okay. This brush is the one you'd like me to share, my smudge brush. That brush, if you get the smudge episode, that brush comes with it, and I show you how to make it as well, and then cover how you would use the smudge brush in painting to speed up your painting. That combined with, honestly, I think probably the two, if you're just looking for tools, construction and control with Photoshop and painting. Oh, sorry. This one? I think this one's in there. When it's not when you don't see the stroke. Oh, you should definitely turn on stroke thumbnail when you're looking at brushes. I don't know if you're doing that. And that'll help you pick out the ones. But this one should definitely be in there. This was one of the very first ones. Awesome. Okay, now's the question. How much of the flesh do I show? Do I want this to just be wrapped? Done and done, Ermiger. It did get a little erotic, didn't it? Oh yeah. Taking it to that weird place. Classic Izzy. I was still for so long. Mm-hmm. The sarcophagus eye, I like that. Well, just as a heads up, I'm gonna have to get off earlier than normal here. So I'm gonna try and find a good stopping spot. And then we can finish this up next week, or hopefully I can do a session at some point during the weekdays. Although these morning sessions seem to be going fairly well, yeah? Oh no, I got it, Ermagerd, but thank you for explaining it to me. I know. I want want to switch these colors out. Something like that, maybe. I kind of like this pinky orange mauve salmon. Ooh, maybe that's you. Yeah, that's a good stone. I think let's drop this shoulder into shadow. Yeah, keep this angle weird. And I think just catch the chin. Yeah, okay, I'm liking where this lighting is going now. I'm feeling it, I'm grooving, I'm flowing. Mumra. Mumra always weirded me out as a villain when I was a kid. I never understood what was scary about Mumra. And maybe that was a great indicator of what my future might be. This monster isn't scary. It needs writhing tentacles. Not dry, husky skin. Nothing scary about that. Punch through him with a ring pop. And I think, let's bring up that angle. Oh shit. Oh, it's happening. Yeah. Okay. I need to work out the shapes of the muzzle and everything, but also I need to be sure that the shape of the bandages going over it are respected, because they're going to really soften the contours of the face. So I'm going to have to draw out this face a little bit more and then cover it up completely, just so that I get the locations of how the bandages will wrap correctly. But, you know, we're on the right track, right? That's coming along. He was just annoying. Yeah. He was kind of a pouty little bitch. I think I need to move this eye. Excuse me. Okay, so I've played enough with the face and anatomy. I really need to figure out what everything else is, because right now it's all just mush. Unacceptable. Zoutine, thank you very much. Welcome. It's a cool name because it reminds me of poutine, and I love poutine. Oh, thanks for the sub, Thug. Yeah, very nearly there. I'm disturbed at what sort of hatchling we would create, my friend. It would be really good with color, though, and it would love purple. A design machine. Do I want to hint at this mass? I don't think so. I think it should just feel like a turkey neck, you know? But this also means, so I've got the head shape. Did I make the head too big? I may have. Yeah, I did. Yep. Okay, this is already feeling more correct. Sometimes you just gotta figure it out. Okay, and I want to. I think we need to do something with this torso. It's not quite sitting just right. Thank heaven for the warp tool. That was a zeitgeist in Photoshop tech. I just needed to give it a little bit more mass for the rib cage itself. Yeah, see the difference? It's pretty significant. This should all be much thinner. So it's some kind of lich, maybe? That's kind of what I'm thinking right now. I might need to lessen the Egyptian influence a little bit, which is fine. Like a space lich. That would be cool. I guess that is kind of Stargate, isn't it? It's just a big space lich that keeps possessing younger bodies. It's not connected to Putin, but this is fun. I am from Russia. Oh, that's fine. No, Poutine is a food. Like, it's a dish that they make in Canada. It's Poutine. And what it is like French fries with white gravy and then like meat on top of that, and then cheese curds. So it's it's a snack that you eat when you're drunk out of your mind. It's delicious. Mind-blowing stuff. No, I'm not talking about Putin. Do I like Egyptian culture? I have this papyrus-like art on the wall. I do like Egyptian culture. That art is incidental. That came with the room, and I liked it, and I didn't have anything behind me for the stream. So that's actually, I forgot it was there. So this is just kind of a happenstance. It was not on purpose at all. Stargate Atlantis had a wraith. Well, spoilers. God, Doug. Damn. I have not seen it. I honestly didn't even know there was an Atlantis. Is it good, or is it like the trashy one of the set? Is it the Deep Space Nine, or is it the Enterprise? I'll have to try that food. I recommend it. It's very delicious. It's a Canadian delicacy, we'll say. How about it's a Canadian invention? Because there's nothing delicate about it. It's like eating a pound of sadness, but it is really tasty. I mean, gravy and fries. That's just oh my god, so heavy. It's got Jason Momoa in it. Oh, that's cool. Sosaros, thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate that. What else do I want to add in here that will make it creepy or weird? What do you think? Let's get some comments from the peanut gallery. What should we add? It'd be interesting if there were things in there that were kind of like off-world. Just reminded me of oh shit, what was that? Maybe I can't even remember. My brain. Maggots. Oh no. Hi Irina. Welcome. Yeah, we started earlier today and we're also going to be finishing a little bit earlier today. I think I can do maybe another 20 minutes. But we just started a sketch. Thug gave us the prompt. It was something that you'd find in an archaeological dig. So we were building from there and kind of throwing in a little bit of a fantasy or sci-fi element in it, but I don't know where I'm going with it just yet. We will suss this out. Maggots, I don't know. I don't know if that's going to fit. Because this is a desiccated corpse. It's basically just dried flesh. There's nothing for them to eat anymore. They've already had their fill. Something metal and electronic that has no power, so LEDs look like crystals. That's interesting. I was thinking about that with that tube that I added, but I was worried that it looked a little too much like a hospital scene instead. Like something that's overtly tech, you know what I mean? Let's try. Let's try again and see if there's something I can work out here. I mean, we could just go full Stargate and make sort of a sci-fi sarcophagus and all that shit. I mean, just go with the flow. Yeah, Adelheid, just a little bit of storytelling. No, don't like that. Let's one of the ways that you can kind of minimize having to add loads and loads of background detail is to just carve things off with foreground elements. I'm a big proponent of cutting corners. So I'm going to do that here. These won't be necessarily foreground, but sort of like describing a wall shape. And it doesn't need to be super worked out or anything. It just needs to have, it just needs enough detail to communicate the idea. That's it. And that is the trick with so many paintings, right? You don't want to over-render the shit out of something because it works against you. In my opinion, it works against you in several ways. One being you spend way more time on a painting, and two, you can kind of take the life out of a painting. In my opinion, again, just opinion, being able to see strokes, being able to see a little bit of rhythm and the vibrancy of the sketch underneath, to me gives it more life, gives it more visual interest, sort of like how did they do that feel? Whereas when things feel super over-rendered, I kind of read them as like just overwrought, like this thing was beat to death. There is no mystery, there is nothing to discover. You've been talking Stargate from the outset, so it's already been steering this subconsciously. Absolutely. No disagreement there. if we can figure out some interesting shapes. Huh. I have just discovered that I am hungry. I will need to make something to eat. I think it was all that talking about poutine. What is happening here? Why are we not doing what I tell it to do? How often do I stream? I stream about once a week. But if you go to my About page, there's a Discord link down below. Click and join, and I will generally let people know before I start streaming that I'm going up. I have done rando episodes, and I used to do 3 times a week, but with work, I have had to knock it back a little bit. Looking at mummies does make one hungry. This is true. This also kind of reminds me of like reliquaries. Reliquaries? How do you say that? You know, the tombs of saints that are all holy and stuff. I am too hungover for Lady of Shalott. We're not doing this. Some depressing ass shit, if you haven't heard that poem. I think we may have to get rid of the jars, although I like what they're doing. Sometimes I paint myself into a corner, and I don't like what I end up with. So I try to recognize when I've introduced a bad route as quick as possible. That's why if I'm going to be taking a risk or I'm going to be trying out something, I'll do it on a separate layer. You've seen me add layers kind of almost arbitrarily. Almost always they tend to be when I'm going to do a major shift and I'm not sure about it. So it's a good way to protect yourself and go back if you need to. I think maybe the body just needs to be more crowded with like gifts and tithes and things like that. I don't know. How's the weekend going? It's going better. Started off rough, but it's going pretty good now. It's all thanks to y'all. It is fun hanging out and chatting paintings and movies. It's almost like having real friends. Stupid COVID. You are real, it's true. Zutine, you just got back from Cairo a month ago. You saw a few of the tombs and sarcophagi. That's great. So cool. What was it like? What did it smell like? How is the air in Egypt? I've never been to Africa. That'd be really cool. One of my favorite things about going to different places is getting off the plane and getting that first whiff of like that local odor. The plants, the streets, the foods, things like that. I love the smells of different places. LA is still one of my favorites. Tahiti was really great too. It's starting to feel like an alien was buried by an ancient civilization. Ooh, we can lean on that. That's a good idea, Thug. Thanks. It's great, actually, very atmospheric. Lots of was a lot in Africa, in different countries. Oh, so you went all over. That's cool. Let's accentuate that idea. Let's push it. Oh, if you're talking about me traveling, the smells, no, I'm talking about memories from traveling before. I haven't traveled honestly at all since I came back to the States. I did that. I did my sort of crazy Furiosa Fury Road run up from Puerto Vallarta. It was like almost 5,000 miles in 3 days or some shit. It was insane. I did that, and that was the last travel I did, and that was last year, right around this time, actually. So, nothing for me, just the glorious memories of an easy life before. I have a feeling it's going to be like being sick, when you feel sick and you're just like, oh God, I never appreciated how good I had it. And this feels like that now. Like being able to travel at any time. I should have traveled more. I should have done so much more stuff. Hung out with people more. This shit is awful, man. It's a mummified alien. Goonies never say die. They never do. Welcome, Cypher. Zutine, you have the vaccine already. You were vaccinated before New Year? Man, you're doing it right. Egypt is open. I am super jealous of y'all with your vaccines. I live in the land of dum-dums. Ah, interesting. What else can we do that would make this really alien? What if we... do extra fingers? That's an easy take. Longer up the limbs a little bit. It might be that I can't salvage these pixels here, but that's okay. It is entirely possible to overwarp something and just totally kill it. So when you do that, I'm going to delete that layer. What you want to do is get the rawest, most original version of those pixels as possible. So I'm going back to the original painting or the original sketch parts. Now that I'm looking at it, I'm not entirely sure that I gained anything by this layer. I'm contemplating dumping it. They're vaccinating peoples in their 50s in England. That's great. When you get vaccinated in here, you still have to obey the rules, get tested, stay home, so it makes no difference. Yeah, I mean, until you needed like a certain amount, a certain percentage of the population needs to have the vaccine before you can kind of open things up really again. Yeah, I'm definitely a masker for life now. I'll be wearing a mask most of the time. I like it. Who got the vaccine in the United States? We have a rollout for, I think it's like 1 million or 100 million vaccines, and I think they're slated to finish doing that, and that should be in the next couple of weeks. I think they're going to make it, but obviously their priorities are elderly care, teachers, things like that. Excuse me, I still haven't gotten an appointment set up. That's my own fault. I just knew that I wouldn't get a chance to get anything, but it might be time to start researching how and where to get mine. Let me let me do the alteration on this chest, get it feeling right, and then we'll have to stop for the day. And we can come back next Saturday and finish this guy up. I'm kind of thinking maybe I should just go really like almost absurd. Like something like that. I don't know. This is tough sometimes. So if you're trying to squash and stretch something just horizontally, but it's at an angle, sometimes it's better to just rotate it into the direction you need and then rotate it back. There is pixel decay, but it's worth it if you don't want to fuss with warp. Now we try a warp. Just to get that that bit of mass and volume. Get rid of the neck. Yeah. Looks a bit alien-y, right? Now, let's add one more detail real quick. Let's go ahead and do really long fingers. This will all be cleaned up next time. It's just notes for myself. I think it might be worthwhile to add another one. know why I lit the other side of this wrist, because that side wouldn't have shadow as much. But I'm not perfect. I mess shit up all the time. Okay, there's the start of our weird alien mummy with some notes for next week. Hopefully I'll be able to join again. Any recommendations on a raid? I'll take recommendations now. If there's anybody you want to kick some viewers to. I do have a Cintiq on my desk behind me. This is all computer equipment that was sent for my day job, the animation art direction gig. I hate Cintiqs. I actually told them please don't send one, and they sent one anyway. So I have actually not even turned that on. I don't like them. The color is bad. They're hot. I just don't like having my face up against a screen. I've gotten used to using my Slate. I mean, it's cheaper, it's older tech, sure, but everything I need is there. And I like the idea that my hand is not between me and the artwork I'm on. So that's kind of the deal. Okay, so we got some recommendations. Thug says, hangs with Hans. I got upgrades, Cypher, but I'm not really using them. And I think you can kind of see this monitor thing here with a little shroud. So this is a really fancy ass monitor and it does like its own self color calibration checks and everything. It's just a monitor to me. The system that I teach for painting is not dependent on monitors. It's about color and value relationships. So most of my paintings should work on most any monitor, of any moderate quality. And that's because that's a lesson that I learned ages ago. When I first really started putting out digital painting, I had to learn ways to prevent having your image look like garbage on different monitors. So I don't even think about that stuff so much. I barely use that. Friend of yours who's Scottish and loves innuendo and draws terribly. Okay. You have no idea I didn't work with a display tablet? Yeah, I have tried them before. I really don't like them. I have a whole scree against it. Yeah, also that's another thing, access to the keyboard. And even I don't even use a full keyboard. I use this let's see if I can get the cord loose here. I use one of these old what do you call it? Razer Nostromo. I mean, it still has like sea salt on it. I've had this thing so goddamn long. And all the pads are missing. But even with that, it's uncomfortable using the Cintiq because you have to move your arm so far out around the thing. And this thing is huge. I mean, that thing's wider than I am. Yeah. No. Not for me. All right, let me grab this link here. Copied. We will prepare to raid. Please stick around for a few minutes. Ask her some questions. Say hi. Let her know where you're from. I think that'd be real fun. All right, let me set this up, gang. Okay, we're good to go. We'll start the raid. What's our cheer? Oh, is that a thing? I don't know. Let's invent one before I click this button. What should the cheer be, Adelheid? Thug might have an idea. He knows her. Charge. Works for me. Thanks, Draval. I will be on soon next week. Be sure to stop in. I'm going to set the start raid now. All right, gang. Thanks for hanging out today. It was fun. As always, paint smart, paint sexy.